What if I told you a plant could open doors inside your soul? Long before it became a symbol of rebellion or a tool for relaxation, cannabis was seen as sacred. Not a party trick, not a prescription, but a portal, a living key between body, spirit, and the invisible world. The ancients didn't smoke for fun. They entered a relationship, and, like any real relationship, it could heal or haunt. But here's a question almost nobody asks. What are the spiritual effects of smoking weed? Not what science says, not what governments say, and definitely not what pop culture says. We're diving into ancient scrolls, forgotten rituals, and the wisdom of mystics to uncover how cannabis affects the soul, not just the brain. Across the world, old tradition saw cannabis as sacred but dangerous. From India to Africa, from Taoist monks to Rastafarian elders, this plant was never just a buzz. It was a bridge, and bridges go both ways, to the light and to the shadows. In ancient India, the Ava called it one of the 5 holy plants, connected to Shiva, the god of destruction and rebirth. But even his followers didn't take it lightly. They used it while fasting, chanting, meditating for ego death. Taoist masters weren't lighting up to chill. They were decoding the universe. They believed every herb had a spirit, a frequency. Cannabis could boost that energy if your body and mind were in balance. But if not, build it could throw you into deeper chaos. It didn't just relax you, it revealed you. Even in medieval Islam, mystics flirted with the plant's power. Some Sufi dervishes used hashish to reach divine ecstasy. But the wisest among them, like the poet Rumi, warned, why seek God through drunkenness when he already dances sober inside you? They knew it could be a tool, but also a trap. The mystics of the Kabbalah never named cannabis, but their warnings still echo. The Zohar said, "Those who try to force open divine gates without proper preparation will be swallowed by their own ignorance." Translation: if you're not ready, the sacred becomes poison. Not because of the plant, but because of you. Some scholars say even the Bible might have mentioned cannabis. Cannabosum, a mysterious substance in the Old Testament, could have been cannabis. But again, it wasn't smoked in the backyard. It was used in holy oils and incense, meant to unlock prophetic visions. If misused, it was no longer sacred, it was just smoke. In Africa and the Americas, shamans saw plants as teachers. Cannabis was treated like ayahuasca or sacred tobacco, something you use, but something you approach. With songs, with prayer, with respect, because they believed every plant had a soul. And if you're not listening, that soul goes silent. Even the Rastafari, who hold ganja as sacred, use it with purpose. It's smoked during reasoning sessions, spiritual conversations, meditations, scripture readings. It's not about zoning out. It's about tuning in. Ganja is the herb of wisdom, but only if you come to it with reverence. Here's the truth. The plant doesn't decide your path. You do. Cannabis is a mirror, a magnifier, uplift you or leave you lost. It can be a stairway or a spiral. It depends on your intention, your mindset, your spirit. As the ancient Hermetic texts say, the divine does not open to those drunk on themselves. The real question isn't, is cannabis sacred? It's, are you sacred enough to use it? Every portal also opens a mirror, and that mirror doesn't always show pretty things. Sometimes it shows what you've been running from your entire life. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the parts of yourself you hide. Cannabis doesn't create anxiety or fear, it just lifts the mask. If there's pain inside, it will surface. The plant doesn't lie, it exposes. And when that happens, you're not having a bad trip. You're having a confrontation with your own soul. Ancient mystics knew this danger, and they warned us. Dion Fortune, a psychic and occultist, said altered states can make us vulnerable, not to demons, but to our own emotional wounds. The walls come down, the feelings rise, and if you're not grounded, they can take over. Even the Yoga Sutras say, psychic powers from herbs are a trap. You might feel enlightened, you might see visions, but without ethics and discipline, it's just ego in disguise. Osho said, drugs open doors that only silence should open. Without a map, without a guide, you might enter but never come back the same. On an energy level, cannabis is like a spiritual spotlight. It lights you up, but that light also attracts shadows. Practitioners of Reiki and Kundalini say, it heightens the aura but only if you're strong inside. If not, you become a lighthouse with no captain. And guess who sees that light? Not just angels. Some shamans say every sacred plant is a test. Not a test of bravery, but of morality. What will you do with what you see? Will you heal? Or will you hide? Because many who use cannabis often report the same thing. Stillness that becomes stagnation. Pin sights that never turn into action. Peace that fades. The Kabbalists call this spiritual junk food. Clipper shells of false light. Emotional highs with no foundation. A spiritual illusion. Feeling deep doesn't mean you've changed. Expansion without grounding is just swelling. And swelling always bursts. Cannabis doesn't kill growth, but it can fake it. It can make you feel spiritual without doing the work. It's not the plant's fault, it's ours. When used unconsciously, it becomes a comfort zone. By soft prison. A dream that keeps you from waking up. True peace doesn't come from outside. It doesn't come from smoke. It comes from facing the chaos and still finding your center. If cannabis gives you peace, ask yourself, is it teaching you how to find it? Or is it renting it to you? The divine doesn't arrive in sparkles. It arrives in your darkest room, not in a high, but in a hard look at your shadow, at the shame, pull at the parts you avoid. If you breathe through that moment, if you stay, something begins to shift. That's not a trip, that's transformation. So is cannabis sacred? Only if you are. The plant is powerful, but power without wisdom is chaos. If you're going to light the fire, be ready to see what it reveals. And remember, not all doors are meant to be opened without a guide.